Greetings, programs and users. It is time once again for another episode of Old Nerds Drinking. I'm John Patrick, the Master Control Program. I am sitting by myself here in the edit suite. Rojan is off on his Disney vacation. So when he gets back, we're going to have a bunch of fun things to talk about his visit to Star Wars Land. So right now, I'm having myself a nice, very basic bitch rum and coke. As I sit here and get ready to start editing part 2 of our last episode. So we'll be talking about some spooky season stuff, even though Halloween has just passed. But I hope you will enjoy it. And without further ado, here's the show. Although I was sad to learn that Anthony Hopkins' cat passed away.
What? Okay.
Okay, so during COVID, we all had things that got us through COVID. We all had those, like some people found sea shanties. Some people started sourdough bread. One of the things that got me through COVID were TikTok videos of Anthony Hopkins playing the piano for his cat. And it's adorable. It's Anthony Hopkins sitting there just playing the piano and his little cat, like, rubbing against him and purring. And it was sweet and it was wholesome. And I just, like, a few months ago, they posted that his cat passed away. Hannibal Lecter sitting there at the piano singing songs to his cat.
Okay. I'm sorry. I don't know.
It's because you're a dog person, and we forgive you.
No, I am also a cat person.
We know.
If the cat likes me, if the cat doesn't like me or doesn't want to be near me, I'm indifferent. It's like, all right, whatever. I don't care about you. But if I've been around. I have friends that have cats that I absolutely love. That,
oh yeah,
you know.
Well, you and Sammy give each other high fives.
Your Sammy wants to rip my fucking throat out.
She does that to everybody. Like, it's
well, then
not
she wants
just
to rip
you.
Everybody's throat out. Like, she sits behind me when I'm in the studio down there at Cassaday Old Nerds Drinking, and she'll just sit on that little couch behind me there. And as soon as I turn around, she's just like, "I will fucking annihilate you," you know. And that's it, you know. So. It's like, okay, because I like to be affectionate with animals. If you have a dog or a cat that likes me, I am on the floor playing with that animal.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
I am not a dog person. I am an other people's dog person. I don't want a dog, but I will love your dog. I will give all my love to your dog and then leave and not have to clean dog poop out of my yard.
I have become that way. Like our buddies over at Jake and Tom, he just adopted a.
Oh my God, that's so adorable! That little Linus,
and I would
the
take
bulldog.
That dog in a heartbeat if I could, because it's a British bulldog, and I've always wanted one.
Oh, I know,
but I can't. You know, so fortunately, both of my kids have grandpuppies, and I am also babysitting a puppy right now. I've got my cousins over here, and they've got this little white Samoa puppy fur ball. It's like the meme. It's so fluffy. That's what this dog is. It's adorable. So, I mean, I guess I could see your point where, because you were a cat lover, when Anthony Hopkins' cat died, you mourned for the loss of his cat. But
because
is it good casting?
as we know, all cats go to Valhalla because they are carried across the Rainbow Bridge by the Valkyries to the mead halls of Odin, where they join the Einherjar, the honored dead. And when Heimdall sounds the Galadriel horn, and it is the time of Ragnarok, all the pets will return to fight in the last battle with Odin.
You were also forgetting about the chariot being pulled by cats, Freya's chariot.
Oh yeah, and another one of my favorite scientific facts, that orange cats only exist because of the Vikings. And the fact that cats exist in North America is likely because of Vikings. Just two of my favorite facts.
I love Maine Coon cats.
Oh, yeah.
I really do. Like a regular, as pure blood as possible Maine Coon cat. They're just huge and they're furry. They're very cool. I also like serval cats, but serval cats get as big as dogs.
Oh, yeah. Servals. Well, and servals are technically a wild cat. They are not you should not allow, unless it's basically the same thing as owning a tiger for a pet. You shouldn't own a serval as a pet.
Well, there's Savannah and serval cats.
Yeah, Savannahs are a crossbreed of servals. So yeah, you can have a Savannah as a pet, and they're basically the same damn thing. You have to be careful.
I have a friend who had one as, well, haven't talked to him in a while, but they had one as a pet because I believe they are legal in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I remember of it, they were the best.
Oh, I was going to say. Savannas are legal in almost every state because they're still considered a house cat. They're just really fucking expensive.
Maybe it was a Savannah cat then, but from what I remember,
it was
the best aspects of both a dog and a cat. It
was
very it didn't have the from what I remember of it, it didn't have like, you know how cats are like, pet me, don't pet me. Okay, now pet me, now don't pet me, I'm going to attack you.
Like
it
Sammy.
was more like a dog in those regards, but it was incredibly intelligent. Like the fact that like most people who have big dogs, your dog isn't just going to jump up on the counter, but these things are cats, so they can do that. They can just jump up on the counter, and then you've got a cat that's as big as a fucking, Doberman on your counter eating off your plate.
Yeah, and you have to be very careful with Savannas because they will range up to 7 miles. So if they get outside, it's not like where if your cat gets outside, it's probably not going to go further than a few blocks around your house. If a Savannah gets outside, it will range up to 7 miles in any direction and still consider that its home turf.
Exactly, and people not knowing any better will see it and be like, there's a fucking puma out here trying to kill me, Because a lot of people don't know what Savannah and serval cats are. And plus, they see a cat that big, they're going to be like, this thing's going to attack my kid, or something like that. So I get the thing for it. But it was a cool cat. It was really, it would come over and play with you and stuff. It didn't pull its claws out and attack you or nothing. It was very lovable and affectionate. And ever since then, I've always been like, man, I could own one of these. I could own one of these cats. I don't remember if he had a litter box or what he had, though, for that regard. I can't remember anymore.
I have priced them out, and getting Savannah cats or Savannah kittens, you're going to spend about $10,000.
Really? Wow. I saw them go for like $3,000 or $4,000 a few years ago.
They're pretty expensive. Trust me, I've looked.
How did we get from Star Wars and Marvel movies onto cats? Anthony Hopkins. That's
Anthony Hopkins. But well, there is one. It is spooky season because it's October, and this is our pre-Halloween podcast.
We're gonna talk about Werewolf by Night.
We are gonna talk about Werewolf by Night.
Okay, cool. I'm glad we're at least talking about something that we watched.
And the sadness of you being proved wrong because there was absolutely no Moon Knight cameo.
There was no Moon Knight cameo. There was no Blade cameo. And I was ready to accept that I was wrong. But that rumor was very strongly out there because that was where no secret, I am a huge Moon Knight fan because that was where Moon Knight debuted, was in Werewolf by Night. And in the one episode, the bus said WB, the issue number for Werewolf by Night of when he debuted. So the logical assumption when they said, yeah, we're coming out with a Werewolf by Night one episode show for Halloween. And it was like, well, they just did Moon Knight, and, I could totally see him popping up in that show for whatever. But what I was pleasantly surprised by was the appearance of Man-Thing.
Yes.
That made up for me not getting my Moon Knight. That was just as cool of a character. And they did it very, very well.
Ted?
And they have said that these characters are going to be showing up back again in the future at some point.
So when I saw the trailer and they showed Elsa Bloodstone, I thought, just because it was a trailer and you only saw quick, I thought that was actually the actor or actress who played Jessica Jones. And I was like,
so did I. Me and the wife said the same thing. I'm like, that chick reminds me of Jessica Jones.
Well, here's the thing. What I found out is the actress who plays Elsa Bloodstone, because I was like, where do I know her from? This is so familiar. She played the lead character on The Nevers.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we knew her from.
Yeah. I forgot about that. I liked that show.
I don't know.
And it's coming back.
Yeah, it's kind of in hiatus. They haven't said for sure if it is or isn't, because that was supposed to be the first half of the first season. So it wasn't even a second season. There was supposed to be another half of the first season, and we never got it. And that last episode where you finally see the big reveal about what's going on, I was like, oh my God, I want to see more of this.
Yeah. It was it was steampunk X-Men, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm. But then before they announced that it was Elsa Bloodstone, I actually thought it was another Marvel character. Oh God, what's her name? I think. Damn it, I gotta look this up.
Editing.
So the character that I thought it was Victoria Montesi, who was the leader of the Darkhold Redeemers, one of the original Midnight Suns titles. So that's who I thought it was, because all of the like hallmarks of this were really close to a lot of like the imagery of the Midnight Suns stuff, which would lead into Ghost Rider. But I don't know if Man-Thing was part of the Midnight Suns, but it would have made sense to it.
That's what the big word behind the scenes is that they're not saying it, but all the pieces are in place for there to be a Midnight Suns, because we know Blade's coming. Mm-hmm. We now have the Man-Thing. We now have the Werewolf by Night. Man-Thing, I can't remember for sure he was in there or not. Morbius, questionable. Doctor Strange was there. So some people are saying that this could be something to do with the next Doctor Strange movie, or they might just do like they're doing with the Thunderbolts and do a spin-off series, like a darker one of the Midnight Suns.
I would, because really Ghost Rider was in
there as well.
Yeah, it's all
Blade.
Yeah, Blade. Well, Blade was a member of the Night Stalkers Detective Agency, so you also had the Night Stalkers, or you would have had the Night Stalkers there. You would have had Johnny Blaze as just Johnny Blaze, Dan Ketch as Ghost Rider, the Darkhold Redeemers, Morbius, the Living Vampire, and I think there was
Have you watched Morbius yet?
No, I haven't. Because I just...
You don't have time, and you've been told that it's a really bad movie. I get it.
Yeah. Let's put it this way. I just sat down today and watched the first episode of season 4 of Stranger Things.
Okay. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
And it's not a movie. I would never have thought of Morbius as a character to carry his own movie. He
did have a comic book for quite some time.
Yeah, but he always seemed like he was just part of something else. It was either Morbius showing up in Daredevil, Morbius showing up in Spider-Man, Morbius showing up in the Midnight Suns. He never really seemed like a character strong enough to carry his own series.
I get that as well.
Or I should say, not his own series of comics, but his own movie.
I'll say this: Jared Leto got the character down. He portrayed him the way that I remember him, even good as a human and as the vampire. And Matt Smith was in it. Matt Smith was okay. He was a villain in the movie, and that he was okay in that part. So I don't think the problem is with the actors or how they played their characters. It was just all the debacle going on with the Spider-Man movie and what was going on with Sony, because the two really didn't communicate each other that well.
Right. It's like you're trying to connect this to the Spider-Man universe that Sony is somewhat trying to build by having Michael Keaton as the character from Spider-Man Homecoming, but then you didn't have Spider-Man. Like, it would have made a lot more sense to connect this to this Spider-Verse they're trying to build if you had Tom Holland as Spider-Man. But now Sony's saying, like, they aren't even sure if they're going to make more Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. And if they reboot Spider-Man for the 4th time, yeah, I'm out.
Actually, they just confirmed about 2 weeks ago that Tom Holland is coming back for 3 more movies.
Okay.
But they have also... the other guy, the one that didn't get a 3rd movie, what the heck was his name? The one who, the one that they shafted.
Anthony Garfield.
Yeah, Andrew Garfield. There's apparently going to be an Andrew Garfield movie that's going to be tying it. Now that No Way Home happened, and everybody was like, Garfield, bring Garfield back. Give him another movie. And Tobey Maguire kind of doesn't, he wants to, like, from understand, he doesn't want to be that much deep in it because he's getting old and stuff.
Yeah.
But he still wants to be there, but in a different capacity, like the big brother giving advice kind of capacity. So apparently there's talk that, and this is through casting networks and screenwriters and stuff like that, that Garfield's going to come back and he might be the one that actually does the Venom movie, because he specifically made the joke in the movie, I want to fight an alien, or something like that, So that's possible. But they've also said that, yeah, these three are going to be, because of the chemistry and because the fans liked it so much, that these three will eventually, at some point or another, eventually be hooking up again. Maybe not in the same way. Like it might be Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, or it might be Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland, or Garfield and Tom Holland. But they're all going to still be associated with one another. They've said that, yeah, this is a family now.
So
we're going to revisit.
I was going to say, like, I never thought of Spider-Man as being a huge multiverse title, but like, I mean, I remember in like the Spider-Man animated series where they kind of touched on like the Spider-Man multiverse with the other Spider-Mans and Madam Web. But like Marvel is kind of just running with this to the point where now there's like all these kind of Spider-Verse comic books with different versions of Spider-Man. And I just learned...
There's a reason for that.
Yeah. I just learned there is a Spider-Man Disney princess. There is a version of Spider-Man that is very heavily influenced by Jasmine. And they show her in this kind of pseudo-Arabian fantasy world, and she has a pet spider that she talks to. They even had a sequence of her in the market having a song, and they wrote the dialogue and had it sung by a Broadway star who played Jasmine in the the musical version of Aladdin. Like, it's serious. Like, this is a thing.
Kevin Feige and the woman that's running that division of Sony and handling all the Spider-Man stuff.
I was going to say, I'm just talking about the comics at the moment.
I know, but the reason I'm trying to explain what's going on behind the scenes with Kevin Feige and the Spider-Man universe. And Kevin Feige, I guess, a few months ago, well, it was actually about, I don't know, maybe a year ago, those two were out to dinner, and Kevin Feige was like, listen, you guys at Sony, you can't do it this way. You need to do this X, Y, and Z. So Kevin Feige actually sat down with Sony and said, if we're going to do this, because we all care about these characters, we all care about the money that they're going to generate, and we all care about this shared universe, and they've all learned that if we play nice together, the fans like it, and the pocketbook's empty. So he sat down with them and said, okay, if we're going to do this, let's do this right. You guys can still do your whatever. I don't know why the fuck they're doing Kraven the Hunter, but go do your Kraven the Hunter movie.
Actually,
they're going to do another.
I was going to say, I don't think Kraven the Hunter is interesting as a standalone movie, but I absolutely would love to see a Spider-Man movie where the villain is Kraven the Hunter. Because
that's all coming now.
Yeah, because Kraven the Hunter is one of my favorite Spider-Man villains, because he is literally just some dude with zero powers who just wants to prove that he is the greatest hunter in the world, and by like the old joke of hunting the most dangerous game, which is man. No, which hunting the most dangerous game, which is superheroes.
So apparently that's what Sony and Marvel are going to do now. So they're all consulting with one another. Like Sony, they've told Sony, go do your stuff, but if we're going to tie this all together, let's work together on the tie-ins, and let's try to, do your stuff, bring it to us, and they're all going to work together now for the greater good of the Spider-Man universe, which for me is great. Sony, like Warner Brothers, just doesn't seem to get it. They don't seem to understand.
Because they don't get comic books. They get movies.
Yeah,
Sony is a movie company. Warner Brothers is a movie company. They don't look at this as making a comic book movie. They are looking... It's
a boardroom meeting for them.
Yeah, this is a movie that's about a comic book character. So it goes through the same process. Like, they don't see any difference in how they make this versus any movie. And except in very specific circumstances where you get directors who are a big enough name that they get a right of final cut, this is the process. It's the director makes the movie, the studio watches it, and if the studio's bean counters don't like it, they re-edit the movie to make it the way they like. And they're not necessarily the best judges of what's good in movies. It's the same thing with the Academy of Arts and Motion Pictures. It's a bunch of old white dudes sitting in a room circle jerking each other about what they think is cinema as an art form. Not
Smoking cigars.
Yeah, not what everybody else thinks, not what the public thinks. It's just what these collection of old dudes who are like the masters of Hollywood, basically just congratulating each other on being the masters of Hollywood. And that's a lot of what happened at Warner Brothers. Is the Warner Brother executives were like, what do you mean? No. We're going to do this. This movie needs some comedy. Let's punch up the comedy. It's like, we don't want, this is a serious movie. We're making this a serious. So let's add in some darkness.
Yeah, they don't have any heart or soul to them or whatever.
Yeah, they don't have any love for the characters. They don't. It's like, oh yeah, like let's make the Joker fucking Jared Leto, because they have
He's a big name. Stop. People will come. People love Jared Leto. Let's just put him in
he's a big name. He's hot. Like, let's get him in this movie.
Yeah. Like, the other thing is, I can see, like, there's a movie like Wonder Woman. You could see where the director really cared about that movie. There was some heart and passion in it, and you can just see where Warner Brothers came along and said, "Now we got to change that. We got to change this. Let's change this fight scene and make it look this way or do that to it." Like, you could see it with Suicide Squad 2. It's like, this is the same guy that did Guardians of the Galaxy doing Suicide Squad. It should work. He's obviously very good at taking characters that nobody's ever heard of, putting them together and making it work. But you could see where Warner Brothers just came in and was like, nah, we got to make this thing here. We got to do this way. And like really coming in and altering what they were doing. And you can look at it and see it. It's like, just stay the fuck out of these people's way. Let them do their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've already done comic book movies. I understand what the characters are. They've probably got a love for what they're doing. Keep the executives away, because that's why people went and saw Suicide Squad 2, because of James Gunn, because they're like, okay, now we're finally going to get a good DC movie. Because people like, I want good DC movies.
Dude, I would.
My love for DC is just as mutual and strong as it is for Marvel, but it's like,
yeah, it's like when DC let Christopher Nolan make Batman Begins. Like, this was the Batman movie I had literally waited my entire life for. And it was perfect. Every beat of that first Christian Bale movie is perfect. Like, it was one of the first the mistake that Marvel, or well, I shouldn't say Marvel, the mistake that Sony made was every Sony Spider-Man movie retold the Spider-Man origin story. To the point where, like, even Spider-Man, even the Tobey Maguire movies, like, it seems like in the second one, they still redid the whole thing with Uncle Ben. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, we've got to have this point. We've got to have this touch point where it's like the whole great power comes responsibility. And then Marvel came around, and Marvel was like, no, you already know that. We don't have to do that.
Correct.
We don't have to show that part.
And I love that they didn't.
Yeah. But conversely, with the Batman movies, they never showed Batman becoming Batman. And then Christopher Nolan came along and like, no, this is how, like, this is integral to the story of how he became what he is. And it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. And to the point where, like, I don't even think the other Batman like The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises were even as good as Batman Begins. I mean, as great as Heath Ledger was as the Joker, it just seems like there's
I don't know. That second movie was pretty good. The third one was probably the most meh of all of them.
So my problem is the Dark Knight, or excuse me, the Dark Knight relies so heavily on Deus Machina, and I hate Deus Machina. Like, it is my absolute least favorite plot device, and it's so deeply ingrained in it. And like the scene where he digs the bullet out of the wall, and then he's shooting the bullet at the wall, and like piecing together the fragments of the bullet to get the clue. That's not the Joker. That's not how the Joker works. That's the Riddler. Like, that is absolutely some shit the Riddler would do. Or even the other things. But the Joker is not that subtle. And that's what I think they got wrong about the Joker, is it's like you have Heath Ledger as the Joker, where he's kind of this like sociopath, and that was great. That was perfect. But then you had like this background story where he was like taunting Batman, and that just never hit with me.
I don't know. I don't have much to add to it.
and like
but I will say,
and it used my absolute least favorite plot device, which I've mentioned several times, of the bad guy allowing himself to be captured because it was part of his master plan required him to be captured. And I hate that trope. I hate it, and they use it so much.
This movie obviously touched you on a deeper level than I thought it did.
Yeah. Oh, Marvel is just lousy with that trope.
You mean DC or Marvel?
Marvel.
Okay.
I mean, like, that was in like how Loki got in Avengers, is he allowed himself to be captured because his plan revolved around him being in the helicarrier. In order for his plan to succeed, he had to be there, so he allowed himself to be captured. And the same thing in The Dark Knight Rises. The Joker had to be captured because part of his plan meant that he needed to break out of jail for no reason other than just to show him breaking out of jail. I hate I hate that trope. I hate it.
What I was going to say, though, is one of the things that Warner Brothers does is like, hey, let's make another Batman movie. Let's make another Batman-related story that has nothing to do with any of the stuff that we're trying to set up.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
Like,
we didn't need sparkly vampire Batman. I still haven't watched it. I probably won't.
Yeah, and I really don't. Like, everything I've seen about it is just like, this is not a movie I want to see.
Well, there's no need for it. It's like
the Joker.
It's like you just said. We already had our Batman origin story with the Christopher Nolan film, so we don't need another one.
Yeah,
and it just doesn't tie to anything else that's going on right now. Like Warner Brothers, they tried to do the whole extended universe, and as much as it sucked, and as much as I didn't like it, you know, at least they were trying. They could fix it, you know. But at this point,
it's like how do you make a cinematic universe of interconnected movies when the first 3 movies you make are all Superman movies?
Again, they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
Because apparently Shazam, Black Adam is going to tie into Shazam, and Shazam tied into the Justice League movies because they made mention of them. And Henry Cavill's coming back for the Black Adam movie, or there's a part where he's in there at the very end of it, or something like that.
Yeah, it's weird because in the first Shazam movie, there is a Superman cameo, but because
Superman.
It's not Henry Cavill, it's just Superman from the neck down.
Yeah.
Because at that point in time, he was not under contract and wouldn't come back just to do it.
And then the Aquaman movie's coming out, and Aquaman is canon from the Justice League movies. It's like, okay, if you're going to do this, just get your shit together and do it, you know, instead of playing all this dicking around shit. And like, we don't need another Batman movie. We don't need a Joker movie. We don't need another Joker movie.
I have absolutely no interest to see a Joker movie that isn't about Batman.
Yes.
Like, he's not a character I want to sympathize with. He's insane.
Yes.
And you're trying to make him a relatable character, and it's just, no. Why? The Joker is not interesting without Batman. The Joker's foil is Batman. And it's the same thing with the Robert Pattinson Batman movie. I don't want to see a Batman movie where Batman's a barely restrained psychopath, where he is his. It's not even about him being rich and having gadgets. It's just him being like, yeah, I can just go around the law and beat confessions out of people. I don't want to see the Riddler where the Riddler's a serial killer, because he never was in the comic books. It was just about proving he was smarter, proving he was the smartest man in the room. And it just, like, no. Like, I'm great. If there are people that enjoy those movies, have at. But I'm not going to. I have HBO Max. I could watch these movies whenever I want, and I just have no interest to watch them. I want to watch.
They've got their fanboys.
I want to watch a superhero movie to be inspired, to enjoy it, to feel better, and those don't do it. It's just depressing.
Apparently, they're gonna keep going with the Zack Snyder storyline or whatever.
Oh yeah. They're gonna keep going with the Zack Snyder storyline. They're making a sequel to the Joker. I think that Robert Pattinson's contracted for another Batman. So it's like, why are you continuing two separate franchises attached?
Apparently, they've made enough money for them to be able to do that. So
yeah.
But Warner Brothers, again, just they don't seem to get it. And I don't think they care, because the movies that they're making, people are going and seeing them and they're making money. It's not, from what I understand, nobody wants to work for the WB right now. Nobody wants to do superhero movies for them. And, Robert Pattinson, what's he really got going on right now? Of course, he's going to do it for the paycheck or whatever. But most of the people, I'm really surprised that they're getting. I was going to say,
to be fair, I'm sure Robert Pattinson is sitting on a dump truck of royalty money from the Twilight series.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing of like, these movies aren't for me, but they're for somebody, and I'm sure the people involved with them made a shitload of money.
You know what's funny, though, because for a long time, for a while, you used to see like, oh, Warner Brothers is so much better than Marvel from the fanboys. I don't even see any of that anymore.
Oh, damn, I had a point I was going to make, but it's lost.
Yeah, I got to kind of wrap it up here pretty soon, too.
Okay.
Plus, we've been going for like 2 hours.
There is one thing I want to talk about, and it's... So on the show, we've talked about like the Gilmore Girls paradox, the fact that in the Gilmore Girls Soprano paradox, the fact that in The Sopranos, Tony Soprano is watching the Gilmore Girls at one point, and then in an episode of the Gilmore Girls, one of the characters is wearing a Sopranos t-shirt and talking about the Sopranos TV show.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what happens when Tony Soprano sees that episode and they're talking about him as if he's on a show, and that paradox. Somebody recently pointed out that the Monster Mash, the Graveyard Smash, never once in the song do they specifically reference that the Monster Mash is a dance.
Okay.
Which means we can open to interpret that the Monster Mash could be anything. The Monster Mash could be a sex position. The Monster Mash could be a fight scene. The Monster Mash could be anything. We just know that it was a graveyard smash and it caught on in a flash. The Monster Mash could be an STD.
I really don't want to think of it that way. Nor do I want to think of a graveyard monster mash as a giant sex orgy between monsters.
Well, yeah, because at one point they say Wolfman's getting down.
You've put some thought into this, haven't you?
I have. And then the other one, this occurred to me the other day while I was driving. This is, I don't think it's a paradox, but it is a cycle. Bob Seger's classic old-time rock and roll. Bob Seger is singing this song and singing about old-time rock and roll and how the music from the days of old and how it was this old-time rock and roll is the best music ever. Now, he sang that in the 80s talking presumably about the 60s. However, now we listen to that song, and the old time rock and roll we think about when we're listening to that song is Bob Seger. Like, old time rock and roll has become the old time rock and roll that old time rock and roll was talking about. Like,
you don't sleep much at night, do you?
God, Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight. Like, I can feel it coming in the air tonight. I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. I've been waiting, like, he's talking about this moment. He's waiting for this moment. All this is building and building and building. And then that drum hit hits and the beat drops. And he's singing about waiting for the moment when the beat drops. The song is him just waiting to the point where he can drop the beat and, like, make the song, like, smash.
Okay.
I have a lot of time to myself to think about these theories.
I've got nothing for you here, man. I don't know. I don't.
But tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. That song
was supposed to be about a hitman.
That song is actually just written because Phil Collins discovered drum beat distortion, and he wanted to showcase his new system for doing distorted drum beats. So he wrote that song to showcase it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if I was reading a history. No, it was a book about kind of how digital audio influenced a lot of music, and that transition from how we lived in an analog world to transitioning to a digital world. One of the things that came about because of that was before the 80s, when you had drum beats and songs, the drum tracks were very, like, sharp, and they were very clear, and the drum was there to be a beat. Then sometime in the 80s, Phil Collins was recording, and he's talking to the people in the studio through the talkback mic, and he's hitting on the drum, and he's hearing the drum, but he's hearing it on a slight delay through the speakers that are in the control booth, and then projected back through the talkback microphone, and he notices that the drums have this kind of, like, distorted, muddy sound. But at that point, it was something nobody else had done, nobody else had heard of, and he's like, holy crap, this is the thing. And so he pioneered that idea, and then for the rest of the 80s, because the 80s was all about synthesizers, the 80s was all about electronic music, and that was how we got electronic kind of drum sound that just lived on through the rest of the 80s.
This has been another useless fact.
Fun facts with music with John.
Oh, no, this is the other thing we got to talk about. I know it's getting late.
Quick, I gotta go. I've got kids.
Have you heard the new Queen song?
No, I have not.
Yeah. So earlier this year, Brian May was being interviewed and just casually mentioned that they had found a original recording that had been cut from one of their records. A fully mastered song that Queen had done and just didn't make it onto the records because some decision. And so they found it in the vaults, they pulled it out, and it was just this last week they released it. And I just love that. Like, here is Freddie Mercury from beyond the grave singing this song, and it's a ballad, so it's a very soulful song. And it's like magic. It's how often do we get to see that?
Well, the last time I remember that happening was when the Beatles did Real Love. I believe it was called Real Love.
Real Love. And it was a recording that hadn't made it to an album. And that was, it wasn't mastered. So, like, Paul McCartney, I think George Harrison was still alive when that came out. And then Ringo,
it wasn't finished yet.
Right. And, Ringo Starr, they all went back and they added vocal tracks to it. along with John Lennon. So this is kind of that same thing. It's called "Face It Alone" by Queen, and just yeah, if you haven't listened to it, go out. It's on Spotify. It's on YouTube. It's everywhere. But it's just cool. It's just cool.
Yeah, as I saw you post something on Facebook about it, I'm like, well, are they getting Adam Lambert to sing for them again, or like because that seems to be the person that they found that does the best job of it.
Yeah, he's the one who does the touring with them now. But yeah, so this is not Adam Lambert. This is Queen. This is Freddie Mercury in his prime singing.
I would be interested to hear if did they ever record any new music of Adam Lambert? I don't think they did they?
I don't think they did either. I know
I'd
they
be curious to see what they would sound like now as Queen with Adam Lambert singing.
Well, they can't because Brian May's got to like go out and do Buckaroo Banzai shit.
This is true because he is an astrophysicist.
Yeah, he's my number one favorite guitarist and my third favorite astrophysicist.
Third favorite.
So, all right, but I
gotta let you go. So
no, that's it. I was gonna wrap it up here. So, Rojan, what's going on with Cinema Labad?
Cinema Labad. We're still watching movies here and there. We just watched Piranha 3 Double D last night.
Oh no! I want to hear.
I have yet to actually post a review on it.
I was gonna say
it was fun.
I want to hear you talk about Megaforce.
The people that I was watching with had never seen Megaforce, so they had no idea what they were in for. I watched it as a kid. And even then, when I was a kid, I was like, this movie sucks, but, whatever.
Dude, I only know that movie exists because I watched the riff track version of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things, like, on Cinema Labad, kind of like what I used to do with Archivist, and I'm still trying to do with Archivist, is when I post a movie up, if I try to find as much relevant information about the movie that I can. Megaforce, the guy that was behind that was a former stunt guy, and he'd worked in a lot of movies with Burt Reynolds, like Cannonball Run, Smokey and the Bandit, all of those movies. So this script fell into place, and the movie company was like, hey, anything that this guy does with movies with cars is gold. So this should be just fine. And Megaforce was...
I was going to say, and they were hoping to use it to launch a toy line.
Exactly. Mattel, for example, if you watch the movie, there is no person listed for credits as costume designer. That's because the toy company, Mattel, actually was the ones who designed the costumes. Now, this is something that's going to tie to me and you a little bit. The buggies that were used in Megaforce, Matchbox still makes those buggies. They're not painted the same way,
right?
But you can still go out and buy those buggies. They still use that car, and I own a couple of them because we play Gaslands,
right?
So two of the Megaforce buggies that I own, or two of the buggies that I own for Gaslands, are the Megaforce buggies. They've got the little thing sticking out in the front. They just don't have the rocket launcher on the top of them.
They remove that. I was going to say, do they still make a Mattel of the jet cycle? Because
no, they don't.
The jet cycle sequence is like the second best sci-fi dirt bike sequence ever, only beat by Chuck Norris in one of the 80s Chuck Norris, Delta Force, where he's got the little dirt bike that's got machine guns and mortars on it.
That is going to be on the list to watch.
Oh, Delta Force.
We watched Megaforce, and nobody knew really about that whole flying motorcycle thing. And of course, we were all high. So the scene comes up, and I'm like, all right, it's kind of like we're just going to sit back and watch this happen now. And everybody's like, oh, no, oh, no, no, oh, no.
Oh, it gets so much worse. Like, you think you're 10 minutes in, and you're like, this can't get campier. I'm like, oh, the movie just said, hold my beer.
Well, they were trying to use new technology in that movie. And I can't remember what it's called right now. It's off the tip of it's escaped me. But they had this new technology where you could have something showing on a screen and a person walk out of the screen. So that whole sequence was supposed to be showcasing this new technology of this plane flying in and land, like this motorcycle flying into the back of this plane and landing, and him walking through the screen as though he actually just landed this motorcycle on the back of this plane. And the movie just fails in so many areas. It's it's not that it's a bad movie, because I've watched a lot of Sedaris movies and stuff, and this movie is a very Andy Sedaris.
This is a campy movie. It was a uniquely product of the 1980s.
Well, it was supposed to be this massive blockbuster action adventure movie, and it failed so incredibly, immensely bad.
Yeah.
Like so bad. And it's got so many, like the main actor's hair never moves. Wind, pulling a motorcycle helmet off, whatever. His hair is always the same. There's just so many things about the movie. It's funny to watch. It is perfect cinema, Labad.
I'm telling you, if you guys watch RoboJocks, you guys need to watch RoboJocks, and I want to be on when you guys watch RoboJocks.
If you can deal with, because we're very well known, like whenever there's a part in the movie where it's explaining the plot, we're usually laughing our asses off and talking over that part of the movie. And then the challenge becomes to be able to figure out what the hell the movie's about.
Because you didn't pay attention when they monologued.
You didn't pay attention correct. And lately we've been falling down the old Hammer horror movies, like, because it doesn't, like, Cinema Labad isn't necessarily about bad movies. There is a lot of those on there, but there's also classics on there. Like, we just recently went back and watched the Quentin Tarantino, the Grindhouse movies, which sent us down the rabbit hole of actual real Grindhouse movies, which in turn brought us to the Hammer horror movies.
Oh, dude, you guys got to watch Monster Squad then.
We eventually will. There's so many things that we have on the radar to watch, but every once in a while we will watch something that just sounds really bad. And there's been a few of them. We've only been defeated by 2 movies. One of them was Roller Gator, and the other one was
Roller Gator. That's another one I only know of because of Riff
It's
Cracks.
bad. And then the other one was The Horrible Sexy Vampire, which only part of that title is correct. It is very horrible. The vampire, half of the movie, these people are just reacting as though a vampire is attacking them, but you don't ever see anything. I come to find out later that was because of budget constraints. They didn't have the vampire quite ready to go yet, so they just played it off as the vampire was invisible for half the movie. Then we got to a point where, like, we can't watch this anymore.
Oh my God, I just remembered one that you guys have to watch. You guys have to watch Cannibal the Musical.
I have heard of that. What I'm going to do here pretty soon is, my buddy has this projector that was around $100, like we've done over your house, but my yard is not as big, and it's a really good projector.
Yeah,
my
my projector is currently dead. I got to order a new lamp for it, but replacement lamps are like $200.
Well, I'm going to buy this one that's like $100, and it works pretty well. And I'm just going to start having fires in my backyard and calling, like Banjo up or you up and saying, "Hey, I'm having a fire tonight. I'm going to set the projector up, hook it into the computer." Because he's got one, and I'm like, it's not great, but it's good enough for my backyard.
Right. It doesn't.
So I'm just going to start doing that as well. So I'll start having people over for fires, and we'll watch, shitty movies while it's going on. But anyhow, yeah, check out Cinema Labad on Facebook. Join the group. We post somewhat regularly. We'll post movies that we've watched with a review, and I always try to put a link where you can go watch the movie for free, or on what service it's streaming on. So if people see it, they can actually go watch it. Project Archivist, my other esoteric-oriented podcast, I'm trying to get that fired up. It doesn't look like it's going to be firing back up again until around November, because that's when all of my stuff will be finally settled down where I can start getting guests up and trying to get that show back up and running. Because I've only done like 2 or 3 episodes this year. I've just been so out of podcasting because of everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can find that at projectarchivist.com, or you can find it at cinemalabad.com, which does not have a podcast.
All right, and you can find us at oldnerdsdrinking.com or the Old Nerds Drinking Facebook group. Come for the podcast, stay for the memes. And with that...
End of line.
Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
Sherman? Forget it, he's rolling.
It ain't over now.
So, what's the plan? Take car, go to Mum's, kill Phil, grab Liz, go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over.
Might as well write him off.
Let's close up the bridge. Let's get out of here. Close it up. Lights out.
Where are you headed, cowboy?
Nowhere special.
Nowhere special. I always wanted to go there.
We're going streaking! Yeah!
All right, move on. Nothing to see here. Please disperse. see here, please.